The Last Prince, a cinematic visual novel written and directed by best-selling author Patrick Larkin. Chapter 5. Mustering Armies, Part 2. Previously on The Last Prince, Nicanor has started building his army, assembling Roman legionaries, Macedonian pikemen, Greek hoplites from southern Italy, and Samnite warriors from the mountains. Troubled by this, his half-brother Heracles has orchestrated a conspiracy to arrange Nicanor's assassination. Meanwhile, far to the east, in the heartland of the kingdom, the conflict between the other rival princes sharpens. Wearying of indecisive skirmishes, Leonatos and Kassandros have joined forces, marching against yet another of Alexander's surviving sons, Archelaus. Separately, neither prince was a match for their despised older brother, but with their armies now united in an alliance of convenience, their troops outnumbered his. Advancing rapidly, they brought him to bay near Opis on the Tigris River and met to finalize their battle plan. Despite being caught at a disadvantage, Archelaus remained supremely confident. He believed himself to be the better general, and he was sure his soldiers were tougher and better trained. The next morning, the rival armies deployed for battle. Hours passed as each pike phalanx took its place in the lengthening lines. Cavalry regiments formed up to protect the flanks, and hundreds of lightly armed skirmishers pushed into the open ground to harass the enemy. Hurling javelins and firing arrows, they hoped to sow confusion in the opposing ranks before the main action began. In the event, neither side's skirmishers succeeded. They clashed indecisively and withdrew, leaving dozens of their comrades dead on the field. As the light troops fell back, trumpets sounded, and the masses of pikemen started forward, advancing at a steady pace to stay in tight formation. Each phalanx projected a bristling wall of razor-sharp pike points to its front, forming a marching wall of death, pain, and misery. While the infantry drew closer, more trumpets sounded, signaling each side's horsemen into action. On both flanks, cavalry squadrons and regiments rode forward, slowly accelerating from a walk to a trot as they closed on the enemy. Pell-mell charges only ended with fatal disorder and exhausted horses. When they drew within striking range, the horsemen lowered their lances and spears. Riding almost knee to knee, they surged toward the oncoming enemy. And met with a tremendous crash and shuddering impact. Impaled, men toppled off their mounts to be trampled in the crush. Within moments, the rival formations had driven deep into each other's midst and were locked in a standing melee. Caught at close quarters, cavalrymen hacked and slashed and stabbed at each other, fighting desperately. As the horsemen guarding the flanks fought to a stalemate, the pike-armed infantry formations of each army marched on, advancing ever nearer to the moment of lethal contact. What had been only indistinct masses cloaked in dust were now plainly visible, with sunlight glinting off pike points. Formations rippled as men gripped weapons and shields tighter. And then, the phalanxes collided. Pikes thudded into flesh, scraped across shields, or clattered against each other. Men went down in droves. Behind the lines, Archelaus and his commanders watched the fighting with growing confidence.
Our troops are holding firm, sire. Try as they might, the enemy cannot break them.
Cleotos is right, and their numbers are considerably fewer than we had feared.
So our scouts were wrong. Very well. That makes this battle a contest of strength, training, and willpower. A contest I intend to win.
But Archelaus was mistaken in believing that his scouts had overestimated the numbers opposing him. The forces now fighting were roughly equal, but only because Leonatos and Kassandros had sent thousands more on a wide flanking march the night before. And now, with the main armies locked in combat and unable to maneuver, those fresh troops were arriving directly behind Archelaus's battle line. Squadrons of fresh cavalry led the way, followed by regiments of crack-heavy infantry, units of the Silver Shields who'd earned fame under the old King Alexander. Though weary after their long, forced march through rugged country, the troops swiftly obeyed their orders to deploy and attack, determined to reap the rewards of surprise. Soon, thousands of soldiers were advancing to strike the rear of Archelaus's embattled army. Hearing the trumpets and battle cries erupting behind them, the prince and his generals wheeled around in horror.
By the gods, sire! We've been lured into a trap and flanked! This battle is lost! Lost? Impossible! We must turn the rear ranks of our phalanxes to face this attack. There's no time. The enemy is almost upon us. You must ride away, or stay and die here at the hands of your brothers.
Overcome with rage and despair, Archelaus bowed his head. His spear fell from nerveless fingers. Without a word to any of the other commanders or soldiers, he and his two senior generals wheeled their horses and rode away, abandoning the army they had led into disaster. As more and more of Archelaus's regiments realized they were hopelessly trapped, soldiers began throwing down their weapons and shields, surrendering to save their lives. Within a short time, the fighting came to an end, and thousands of prisoners, all of them veteran soldiers, were now in the hands of Kassandros and Leonatos, ready to be recruited into their armies. And what of Archelaus? He met his fate at the hands of his own generals before the sun set. Supporting a prince who possessed an army offered a path to greater power and wealth, but by the same token, a prince without soldiers was nothing but a liability. That night, the two victorious princes, Kassandros and Leonatos, hosted a boisterous celebratory feast for their officers and men. Wine flowed ever more liberally with every passing hour. As was his custom, Leonatos drank deeply, draining cup after cup and offering toast after toast. As the night wore on, his officers and bodyguards followed his example, celebrating their triumph in grand style. In contrast, Kassandros ate and drank only sparingly, keeping his wits about him. At long last, the feast sputtered to a close. Revelers quieted down and sought sleep in their tents. Among them was Leonatos, now thoroughly intoxicated. Coolly, Kassandros watched his half-brother reel away and decided he would seize the offered opportunity. Very late at night, when all was still, his agents dealt with Leonatos's inebriated guards and then struck. Amid uproar, the death of Leonatos was falsely laid at the feet of assassins loyal to Archelaus. Those who knew the truth kept silent out of self-interest. Those who suspected the truth held their tongues for fear they would be next to die. Kassandros moved quickly to solidify his position, demanding oaths of allegiance from his brother's former officers. All of them bowed to the inevitable and swore their vows to him. Kassandros smiled coldly. He now commanded the largest army, and one after another he would destroy his surviving rivals. Next in The Last Prince, with recruits swelling his forces, Nicanor turns to his next critical task, finding the ships needed to ferry his army from Italy to Greece. Two citizens of Corinth offer to bring their city and its fleet over to his side. Nicanor listens, unaware that Xenocles and Callias have other, darker plans in mind. In the east, Kassandros requests a parley with Queen Philaena, Nicanor's mother, demanding that she surrender the royal capital of Babylon in exchange for safe passage to her homeland of Thessaly. Taking the vast city will cement his claim to the throne.